What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and this I'm going to break down what's going on with the market, what you should be watching for going forward. I'm also going to talk about Tesla stock and why it's looking very primed this week for a very nice move. I want to break down what's happening for this week for many different tickers, from SPY, Nvidia to the QQ, and etc. And why it's going to be a very unusual week compared to usual because we have the 4th of July weekend and something else happening tomorrow. And before I break anything about all this information, why the market's going to be very strange this week and what's going on with Tesla as I see it, the play of the week in my eyes, I do have to mention a couple of things before starting. Firstly, I am not a financial planner, so take none of this as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire community as a whole. And finally, don't forget about the Webull link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull and deposit any amount of money, you are guaranteed up to 12 free stocks. The offer ends very soon, so check it out before they run out. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. All right, when it comes to Tesla, this thing was up about 1.66% for the day on Friday, holding up quite nicely, approaching the big event. And finally, Tesla has come out with some very bullish news, and this is likely going to help the share price. However, I want to just note that for the overall market, okay, it's not going to be the best week to start us off because we're only going to be open for half a day tomorrow for Monday. The market's going to close at 1 p.m. Eastern time. Make sure you are ready for this. Make sure you're prepared for this just to be safe. It's going to close 3 hours earlier than usual, okay? And then after that, the market is going to be completely closed for Tuesday, which is going to be the 4th of July, right? Independence Day here in America. The market's going to be closed. There's not going to be trading on Tuesday. So make sure you're prepared for all of this. Half a day for tomorrow, which is Monday, for July 3rd. And then an entire full closure for July 4th. And the market's going to go back to normal on Wednesday. So typically when this happens, when the market is this slow to start off, we tend to see lots of choppy sideways price actions like what we're going to get for like SPY and many tickers out there. It may not be that great for trading, low volume and etc. However, despite that, I still think Tesla has a lot of potential to shoot to the upside and make some very nice moves because investors are going to be very excited about this one. I think that's so much potential. I'm going to break down some numbers for Tesla too, and I think this is going to be my favorite play for tomorrow and also for the later trading days. I think it looks very nice, very primed. I'm going to break that down in just a few. First, let's talk about the market. We have for Thursday, Levi's reporting earnings. Okay, make sure you're ready for that. Then we have another company for Friday. Besides that, there's not really much else for earnings. For data coming out, we have the PMI report coming out again tomorrow morning, 15 minutes after market open. There could be some volatility, maybe nothing too significant though. Then another PMI report with the manufacturing employment data, all coming out 30 minutes after the market opens. So maybe a little bit of volatility in the morning, maybe nothing much though. And besides that, there's just not a whole lot going on for Monday. Market's going to close early. Market's going to be closed completely for Tuesday. Then back to Wednesday, we have the FOMC minutes coming out. So that's going to be important. Besides that, though, there's not much else to the markets. For Tesla, however, this thing is a monster. This thing absolutely crushed it when it comes to its deliveries report. It did 466,000 deliveries for the second quarter. Production was 479,000, well above what many people were expecting. Once again, very awesome news because the analysts kept on screaming Tesla's likely going to give us 440 to 450,000. That's what most of them were saying, almost all of them. They kept reiterating that. They kept on saying that over and over again. And you could see Tesla absolutely crushed expectations. They destroyed it. They did very well with 466,000. They also announced that earnings is going to be on Wednesday, July 19th. So make sure you're prepared for that too. And besides that, we have the numbers right here from Tesla's official website. Basically 466,000 deliveries, well above expectations. 446,000 came from the Model 3 and the Model Y. And then they had about 479,000 plus cars produced in total, which is very awesome from their gigafactories. And then besides that, the majority of them were the Model 3 and Model Y. So once again, very awesome news for Tesla. Congratulations, Tesla. They're an amazing team. And what else is interesting is the short interest was getting a big decrease. We saw less shorting going on during the last 2 trading days of the week last week. And this was because it seems like they knew something good was coming to Tesla. They knew something was happening, so they started covering those short positions, reducing them at the very end of the week. But it still is relatively high. Like if you look at this overall short interest, it still is kind of high compared to like these periods right here. So Tesla could be primed for a short squeeze. I think it's very likely it's going to happen. And this is going to be my play for the week. Now, for Tesla, let me just note that there's some very important levels to watch for. It's going to most likely gap up tomorrow morning and then start pumping as the day goes on. I also want to note that 275 is going to be an area of interest because of the imbalance here. It's going to likely shoot above that. Then we have 280, 286, 290, then 300 after that. Watch those resistance levels. It's most likely going to gap up very close to about 280 in my opinion. Could get very close to maybe like 275 or so, then just start continuing to push up. And we could see this thing make its way up to at least 280 in my eyes. It could break that to about 286. And if it gets above 290, it's going to most likely shoot for 300. I think it could do that. 300 is very, very likely, very possible because Tesla just crushed it. This is also an all-time high delivery record for them. And I think it's going to have a lot of volatility, even with the short trading week, even with the very, very slow short hours for Monday. I still think Tesla has a lot of potential to push up despite that. That's why it's my play of the week. I think it's very, very awesome. If there's any downside, which I highly doubt, I mean, there's 254 as major support at the 4-hour 50 EMA. Below that, there's 250 and beyond, but I just don't see it dropping that hard. It's most likely going to pump very, very nicely. All right, but anyways, besides Tesla, let's just briefly talk about the market. What am I seeing from this point? From a technical standpoint, there's a bearish divergence on SPY, but there's no confirmation of this thing truly rejecting. Now, we do have a nice rejection candle off the 444 level. Could we start cooling off? It's a possibility. Or are we going to pump a little bit more and then cool off? I'm kind of leaning in that direction. I think we could pop a little bit, maybe gap up in the morning, try to push up just a tiny bit to see 445. If it gets above 445, it could go all the way up to 446 plus, but I don't think it's going to pump that hard, especially with the low volume. It might try to push up a tiny bit, then just get a rejection, just trade sideways for some time and cool off. Uh, any break below the 5 EMA below 442, and this thing's going to come down to 440. That is going to be the major support on SPY, 440 flat. If that breaks, then it has potential to fill these gaps down all the way down to like 438, could come down to 436 even. In order for there to be confirmation for the bears, you need to break below 440 specifically. The first sign of that's going to be a break below 442, which is the 5 EMA. So watch that very carefully. All right. What do I think is going to happen? I'm leaning direction that it may pop a little bit more, then just start trading sideways. Then later on during the week, it could cool off a little bit more, retest 440. And if that breaks, then it could start to come down. But we're just going to watch this just to be safe. But anyways, that's what I'm seeing. A small pop-up, sideways price action, potential downside later on. Tesla, like I said, very, very bullish. I'm very proud of Tesla. It's going to gap up and go most likely. It's going to look very nice. The FOMO buyers are going to come in. People are going to be very excited. NIO is going to be strong too. They did over 10,000 deliveries. I already went over NIO though for Saturday. For AMD, nice bullish divergence, a nice accumulation right here. And it's above our EMAs right now. We have a nice bullish trend on the MACD. Looks bullish overall. We have this imbalance at around this 118 level. It's going to likely go for that 118 level very soon. Does it have to happen as soon as Monday? Not necessarily, but it could happen over the next couple of trading days. Maybe it just trades sideways tomorrow, then starts pushing up by the time we get to Wednesday through Friday, or by the time we get to like next week, it should make its way up to 118. That's my target. I think this imbalance is going to get filled. It looks more bullish from a technical standpoint. For Netflix, this is looking quite nice as well. We have this imbalance up here around this like 445 level. I think this is looking like a nice accumulation, potential inverse head and shoulders. I'm going to be watching this thing make its way close to about 450 very soon. At the very least, like the 445 level, I think it could cool off a little bit tomorrow, then try to push up, or it could just keep going. Now, if it breaks below the 5 EMA right here, this 437.5 support, there's going to be some support at 435. If that fails us, it's going to come all the way back down to 430, which is where we have this other imbalance. That's going to be the more bearish case, but I'm not leaning in that direction. I think it looks a little bit more bullish overall. But just to be safe, I just wanted to note that for everyone. Okay, so it's looking more bullish from a technical standpoint. Looks like it's most likely going to pump, but always be prepared for the downside just in case. But I'm leaning more bullish though. For the QQQ, it's the same thing. I think Tesla might help this thing pump. If you look at this, we have a clear inverse head and shoulder structure. We have this nice accumulation right over here, a nice cup and handle like formation. However you want to interpret this, there are different ways. We could go all the way up to about 372. If we break 370, that's going to be our confirmation. If it holds above 370, it's going to go all the way up to 372.8 to 372. That would complete this inverse head and shoulders. Maybe it pushes up a little bit more because of Tesla before it potentially cools off. It could push up tomorrow because of Tesla. So there's a chance it's going to close green tomorrow. But I'm going to be watching this 370 to 372 area. A good chance it's going to push up all the way here before it does reject, maybe cool off a little bit later. Besides that, on the NASDAQ, it looks like it could have more upside too. It didn't really reach this resistance right now, and it's getting a bullish cross on the 4-hour PPO. This is telling me that it might go up for this 13,864 level, a little bit higher than where the previous high was. That is very possible. Looking at SPX, the same thing is going on. Now, there is a bearish divergence on SPX, but there's no true sign of rejection. We do have a rejection candle in the 4-hour, but there's no confirmation just yet. So here's what you're going to watch for, okay? In an unbiased manner, if this thing breaks below the 5 EMA, if it breaks below this 44.21 level, it's going to come all the way down to 43.95 and potentially the 43.80s, right? If it breaks below this 5 EMA. If this thing continues to hold up, and I mean, right now, I mean, it looks more bullish from a technical standpoint still. It hasn't truly like rejected or came down hard. So there's a good chance it's going to push up a little bit more before it does come down. It's going to have nice support around the 4,400 area too, so watch that carefully. But here's what I think is going to happen. I think this thing might try to pop a little bit tomorrow, then just start trading sideways, be very, very boring. And then by the later days of the week, it may cool off just a tiny bit. We could see a slight amount of cooling because this is what tends to happen after the long weekends. And, the 4th of July weekend is coming and there's going to be less volume. So there's a good chance the market may pop a little bit, then start slowing down. But if we get above like 4,600, I'm sorry, 4,460, sorry about that, guys. If we get above that and we make our way up to 4,475, then we could actually touch like 4,500 first and then reject. So we're just going to have to watch how this goes. I'm leaning in the direction that it pushes up a little bit, then it slows down. So that's what I think is more likely, but we're just going to have to watch and wait and see how it goes. For Coinbase, this is looking a little bit more bearish to me. On the 4-hour time frame, we got a bearish cross on the PPO. We also have this bearish divergence that developed on it. We're going to be watching the support right here around this like 70 area if it does continue to break below that. And then after that comes like 68, 66, then 64 as support. And then 60 is going to likely come after that if it does break below like 64. In my opinion, it looks a little bit more bearish. It's going to likely cool off more. You could see it tried to break out and it failed, and it just got a rejection off this bearish divergence confirmation, which tells me that it may pop a little bit more, try to retest this like 72 area, 71.8 to 72, and then it may cool off later on during the week. I'm not saying this all has to happen as soon as Monday. It could take a couple of trading days. It could take a week, but I am anticipating downside for Coinbase now, just looking at that chart. For Aapl, there's no sign of weakness just yet. It's continuing to pop. If it tries to break above 195, we could see 197.5 next. If it rejects, we're just going to have to wait and see. But right now, it's looking strong. Confirmation of a more bearish move would be a break below the 5 EMA. It's been trending above this quite a bit for the much shorter time frames. So my point is, it looks strong right now. There's no confirmation of this thing breaking down. It is a little bit overbought, though. It could try to pop higher for like 195 plus, but then if it rejects, then it could start to cool off. If it does cool off, watch the 5 EMA as our support. I think that this thing is going to pop a little bit more and then start to cool off later. That's my like bias right now, but just to be safe, we have to watch it because it still looks strong. There's no true sign of weakness. For Nvidia, this thing looks more bullish to me because we have a nice inverse head and shoulder structure that has confirmation. We reach this imbalance, and if we get a clean break above like 423, I'm going to see this thing pop all the way up to about 433. That's going to be the next target. If it breaks above that, watch 440 after that. It looks like a nice inverse head and shoulder structure. It filled this imbalance. It's looking more strong. The odds favor more upside, in my opinion, just looking at the current trend. So it's looking a lot nicer than before. Nice inverse head and shoulder structure. I think the odds favor upside for Nvidia. It's going to try to make its way up back to about 430 to 433 very, very soon. But to start off the week, it may be very slow, okay, for tomorrow specifically. We may get some very sideways price action, not really do too much tomorrow, but then by the time we get to Wednesday and beyond, or even like the week after, then we could start to see this thing pop more. I still think it's going to reach the 430 plus area. For Google, we're still sandwiched between our 50 and 200 EMAs. You can see like right here, we're kind of stuck between them. If you want to turn bullish, we need to see this thing break above 121.34 and hold above that resistance. If it does so, it has the potential to go all the way up to this gap level at like 123, then make its way up to about 124.21 or even higher than that. After that comes like 126. It is looking more bullish. It looks like it's more likely that it's going to do that, but for confirmation, we just have to watch it break and hold the 50 EMA. If it breaks down, hypothetically, 119 is going to be support. If that fails us, then it's going to come all the way down much lower. What do I think is going to happen? I'm leaning more bullish on this thing. I think it's more likely it's going to try to break above the 122 resistance zone, 121.3 for the 122, and make its way up to about 123. I'm leaning more in that direction, looking at the current trend. But just to be safe, watch your 200 EMA as support because it is kind of tight right now. So we'll just have to wait and see. But technicals are suggesting it's looking a little bit better. It looks like we have a nice accumulation here, potential inverse head and shoulders. And it might try to make its way up to these higher levels. For Amazon, this thing is going to likely trade sideways tomorrow, be very choppy. We have nice support around our 50 EMA. If we do come down, we could end up testing this 50 EMA, in my opinion, first before it tries to bounce and continue higher. But there's a bullish triangle-like structure developing on it. So there are two ways to interpret this. If it breaks above 131.5, that's going to be a bullish signal. It's going to push up to 132.5 to potentially 135, right? If it breaks down, well, we have support at 128. We have this unfilled gap here from the pre-market. And then we also have this 200, not 200, sorry, 50 EMA around 128. If that breaks, then it's going to come all the way down to about 125. So we're going to be watching this very carefully. What do I think is going to happen? Well, from a technical standpoint, it looks more bullish for now because we have a potential bullish triangle, and we keep on testing this like 131 to 131.5 resistance back and forth over and over and over again. Eventually, it's going to try to break above this and try to break out. Most likely, that's what this is suggesting. But I'm always going to be safe because it is going to be a short trading week just to be safe. All right. So I'm leaning in the direction that this thing could, depending on how tomorrow goes, it could cool off a little bit tomorrow, retest like 128 and bounce. But then later on during the week, by the time we get to Wednesday and beyond, we might see it continue to just trade sideways, try to break out above 131. And if it does break that, it has the potential to push up a lot nicely to like 132.5 and potentially 135. But we need confirmation first, and I think there's going to be a good chance it's going to retest 131.5 and potentially break it soon. So that's the direction I'm leaning in. It could cool off tomorrow first because of the short trading week, because of the short hours and profit taking. But then it could bounce later on and try to break that level. And it's still looking quite nicely as long as it holds above the 50 EMA. It still looks nice. For Meta, last but not least, we're going to be watching this very carefully. It has a tendency of testing the 50 EMA. If it breaks below, that's going to be your bearish sign. It has not done that yet. The bears could argue that there's this head and shoulders forming, but the bulls could argue that it keeps rejecting off like this 290 area. To turn really bullish, it needs to break and hold 290. If it does so, it's going to go flying up. If it breaks below 282 and it fails to get above the 50 EMA, that's going to be a bearish signal. So far, it has not given either of those. It's kind of stuck right now. You can see it's just range trading. It's going to likely continue to do this for a while going into like this week. And then we're going to see which direction it breaks in. I believe Meta right now, it still has strength. There's no true sign of weakness. So there's going to be a good chance it's going to just continue to trade sideways like this and eventually pick a direction depending on how tech goes. We have earnings in just a couple of weeks for big tech. So I do believe that's going to dictate how Meta ends up moving. But until then, let's just be very patient. I think Meta is going to come down and retest this 283 to 285 area. Then it may try to bounce and try to push up and get a retest of 290. I don't know if it's going to break it. If it does break it, we have a lot of potential to push up to 300. If it fails to break it, then it's just going to remain in this range again. It's going to be stuck again, back and forth and back and forth. But it's also forming a potential bullish triangle-like structure. I mean, it's not that strong, but it is potentially forming. So the odds favor it eventually breaking 290. I just don't know if it's going to happen this week or this soon because of the short trading week. So I'm thinking it comes down a bit, bounces and retests 290, maybe trades sideways for some time, and then it eventually breaks 290 later on. So that's what I'm hoping for from a technical standpoint. But just to be safe, we're going to be watching how it ends up reacting to these major resistances and supports. Anyways, the week may be a little bit boring because once again, the market's going to close at 1 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow for Monday. The market's going to be completely closed for Tuesday, of course. And we're going to be back for a full trading day by Wednesday. So until then, watch these charts very carefully and just know that my favorite stock for the week is going to be Tesla. I think this thing has a lot of potential to push up. Deliveries are very good, and we could see this thing gap and go as soon as tomorrow. Thank you for listening. Have a great day, everyone. Enjoy the weekend. Market to the moon as the long term is still incredibly bright, and peace out.